Hey, Toothers. Pretty sure this is my first actual podcast of the year. Don't get me wrong, I've tried several recordings and it failed miserably, or enough that I didn't feel that sharing them was going to be a good idea. It is funny to me that I largely ramble in these, and yet there are times I'm like, God, that sounds like I had no plan. It is funny to me that is the situation. Ironic, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, for me to consider random speech to be somehow unprepared. But it's true. It's definitely true. So I've started to do some things differently, not from a New Year's resolution sense, but just from starting to find things less interesting or even debilitating to my kind of day to day. And look, I've definitely mentioned as far as my health goes, and um, I've been holding on to a stationary bike that I got from friends of mine years ago, as a loaner, incidentally. So they clearly aren't missing it. But I've been on it the last couple nights, right? 15, 20 minutes. I'm not doing the Tour de France in my basement. I'm just moving the legs, right? One of the problems with being sedentary, of course, is circulation in general. Diabetics get I guess, some added bonuses in that area, especially concerns around, limbs, feet specifically come to mind typically. So I'm starting to be more mindful of that situation. And yeah, I'm on the bike. I could walk, I guess, but it's super cold and I really can't just go outside and walk, right? The road that I live on is pretty well traveled and there's no infrastructure for pedestrians. So, sidewalks, there's no crosswalks. It's just, hey, hopefully people notice you. And it's cold, then I'm going to do that. So, yeah, and I could drive somewhere, I suppose, but where's the fun in that? So I go to the basement, get on the bike, and get onto it. I do have equipment. Equipment. I bought a microphone that'll plug directly into the phone, so I could potentially do recordings down there as well. I will do some testing with that. That should be entertaining. You can hear me talk while I gradually die inside from, just moving my body. Yeah. Yeah, and look, for anybody subscribed to the Substack, you've already seen I posted a couple of written articles at the blog, and I've got another one I'm working on. I'm trying to do more of that because I'm actually pretty annoyed with myself for not getting through the books that I have, and I keep getting new ones. So I need to really dive into the material, and some of the blog posts that you're going to see are going to be me just, in some respects, taking notes. Right? I'm going to find things that I may highlight in a book, and I may add commentary to it. It kind of depends on the structure of the material. So I have another one I'm working on. Like I said, currently will probably go out tonight, which is Tuesday. Yeah, it should go out on Tuesday. Which, might be interesting to people. It may not be. Again, I think largely what I'm doing here is for myself, and if people find it interesting, outstanding. Right? It's the kind of thing like when you ask a question and you don't know if it's a dumb question, but then you find out that hey, other people had the same or similar question, or they were confused about a different area that your question. It sometimes just makes it okay for other people to ask a question. Necessarily believe I have an original thought, especially where what I'm trying to do is understand how other people are thinking and trying to see how it might fit into my own personal philosophy, I guess. And I'm also still trying to build, right? So I'm not by any stretch, working on my cult status, as it were. Those who read that article. What else? Yeah, I mean, the news is the news. The certification happened today or yesterday? It was yesterday or today of the election, and it went off without a hitch. Weird when people who respect democracy are supposed to do something democratic and they do it. Maybe I'm overstating the obvious in some respects, but I'm still pretty terrified as to what's coming. Trump wants to take over North America in its entirety, it sounds like. Canada, Greenland. He's talking about renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Like, what is that about? Oh, another thing about the Panama Canal, wanting to take that back. I'm confused where he thinks the Panama Canal is, because it's not Panama, Florida, right? Is there Panama in Florida? It's not there. It's in a whole other country. But, the more I look into the history of the United States and our imperialistic and colonialistic activities over the last couple of 100 years, maybe it's part and parcel to how we do things. We're just being told deliberately, as opposed to trying to make it subtle. So I've got another book about that to go through. Now, never mind just what went on with the natives, the indigenous, the people who were here way before the white folks showed up. It is going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the marketplace of ideas when things seem like they're going to continue to be not subjugated, subdued, subordinated. They're going to be pushed down, pushed away. Zuckerberg is already talking about getting rid of fact-checking. No more fact-checking on Facebook. I wonder if it's got anything to do with Trump talking about having him thrown in prison for the rest of his life for how he tainted the voters by trying to come out against Trump, when just people, right? Just people trying to be honest about what was going on. But that doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. People don't care about truth anymore, right? Certainly not the politicians. I don't know that they ever necessarily did, but they could at least kind of hide behind flowery language and, then straight out lies to now knowingly lying to our faces and being called out on it and still just continuing to lie, and that's it. Nothing actually happens. There's no accountability. Israel's still doing its thing. It seems to not be going away. There are a number of organizations and politicians around the world and groups that are trying to fight. They're trying to just bring up what's going on. They're trying to get people to just acknowledge that it's a genocide. And they're being shut down. Their governments are ignoring these pleas, these requests, this reality. It's reprehensible. It's horrible. It's a touch ironic for anybody considering the breadth of history. But breadth? Is it breadth with the D? Like if Mike Tyson said breads, it would be breadth. Anyway, there's a lot of just terrible, horrible shit happening or about to happen in this country and in the larger context of the planet itself. So it'll be interesting to see when my parents are correct and the world comes to a fiery end and there's a second Exodus, I guess, or Christ returns or whatever. I don't know. Suspect it won't actually happen, but one can always dream that everything will come to an end rather than have to continue to live in what's bound to be a dystopian, oligarchic disaster. Difficult to want to have kids in this mess, just seeing where these things are going. And to be perfectly blunt, if I'm wrong, if things go magnanimously, I am going to be so happy to be wrong. I cannot tell you how excited I'll be to be wrong. I'll be confused as hell, but I'll be excited. But we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. But there's a lot. There's a lot to build up, to build upon, to getting to the point where we're at. A lot of it seems to stem from Reagan and the religious right, those movements that dickhead, the amount of things that have been ruined because of what he did is astounding to me. It just seems to keep getting worse. So I'll have to do a write-up on that for myself and for those of you who are interested in trying to understand what I mean. One of the people that I follow, she is now regularly wearing a piece of merch that she has in her store about Reagan ruined everything. And she's got a couple of variations on it, but it's still the same kind of concept. So she's not my only source, but she is one of them. Just listening to somebody today talking about how the Social Security age changed from 65 to 67, I think back in 83 with Reagan and Greenspan. So there's more to consider. And just the creation of the 401k is such a detriment to almost everybody. By doing away with pensions, 401ks are so much more difficult to process or to handle or to have for people, especially with cost of living the way it is, right? But now you work at a company for decades and you get nothing from it. I suppose in some respects a 401k is more protected because it's not dependent upon that company still existing, but there's other things I need to understand because I'm hearing consistently about how 401ks are a problem. They were not ever a solution. They were not ever the solution that they've become or they were meant to be. I have to find this stuff out, right? When you listen to people that talk about kind of high finance and history of the economy, this is not my subject of expertise really at all. I'm a layman interested in a lot of stuff, so I can talk meanderingly about religion largely and to some extent history, but when we get into the economy, yeah, I look at where my checkbook is, right? I wish that were a joke, but I have a very specific place because my landlord requires rent to be paid by check, which is odd, but not a deal breaker. So, yeah, it's the normal, everyday kind of nonsense that you would expect from me, but I am trying harder to get more out. And if it becomes too much for people, I apologize. Read what you want, read what you can. I was talking with someone about this recently, and I can see when there are views on the blog post. I can see when there are downloads on the podcast. I don't know who they are. I have no idea. Right? And some of the social media sites, people, I make a comment on somebody's post, and then I get followers, right? Or I could just be getting followed by bots. I don't have any idea. Those are unhelpful as well. So if I were doing this in order to get feedback, if I were doing this in order to elicit a response from everybody who was interested, I would have stopped a while ago. And I'm not complaining about people not replying or commenting or coming to me about stuff. Some of you have, and that's awesome, and some of you don't, and that's fine. That's why I think I'm largely focusing this on what is of interest to me and where I want to kind of specifically store these ideas. I think it's a good outlet for me creatively and just mentally. And if other people appreciate it, if other people think it's worth their while, awesome. And if you don't, okay, it's fine. But we are into New Year. I mentioned in one of the writings about how I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I don't think anybody really does anymore. I don't know anybody who even pretends to think about them anymore. I think when I was growing up, it was more popular. It was more in the news. I don't know if it's still in the news or not. I don't watch regular television anymore, so I have no idea if people are still excited about it. And I haven't heard much from the usual talking heads about it either, so maybe it's a bygone thing now, but it was one of those kind of pseudo rituals that people would get into. And we all know that they fail, right? It's a fad. It's more of an emotional driver and not a not one with any kind of reason or commitment behind it, which commitment is emotional. It's not what I mean, but, like, oh, it's time to do something different. Yeah, we all like the idea of being able to start over. It doesn't always happen. It's not always viable. But I think the important part is that if you're willing to move forward, if you're willing to do something to better yourself, who cares when you start it? Don't wait. Start now. Start yesterday. Start tomorrow. I don't care, right? If you want to be a better version of yourself, there's no bad time to start. And obviously there are outliers. I mean, if you're on death row, probably a bad time to start sorting yourself out. But again, it's not really my target demographic. But by and large, all of us should be able to take a look at ourselves and understand that we're never complete. We're never done growing. Always be curious, right? So I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself with certain things, which is probably true and probably fine. I feel like there's a certain interest in myself in being kind of consistent and having that reminder of where I think we could be or should be in some respects, kind of focusing our efforts in our brain power and our self-reflection or self-awareness. And it's difficult because we are looking at it from our own perspective. We may get feedback from people that may suggest that we should do something different, and we may figure that out. Oh, the Trump store is closed. Oh, what a shame. How terrible. What are they talking about? Yeah, we're looking at things from our own perspective, our own biases, and we are going to have blind spots to ourselves. We're going to have blind spots to other people that we like. We're going to have blind spots to people we don't like, right? That's the whole point of having biases. They are these blind spots, these things that we miss about what we think we know about a thing, about a person, whatever. I just think it's worthwhile to put in some effort, a little bit of energy, a little bit of thought into certain things. Like, I really should practice on, enunciation, right? Because I am without teeth, so certain words are really difficult to get out. But the other problem is I have a tendency towards mumbling anyway. And what's funny is there are times where I will be going through the editing process, and I will hear myself say a word, and the application I'm using tries to, speech to text so I can read what's being said, and even I'm like, I have no idea. So I apologize to any of you who experience the same thing when trying to listen to me, that it just sounds like I'm babbling or I've lost my mind, because it's not on purpose. I am just rambling, so I'm not overly concerned necessarily with how I sound, because there's no one to bounce back on me to say, hey, was that a word? Was what a word? Right? Like, I don't, which word did I not say correctly? It's a word game to try to play, right? It's something to try. I mean, I have to start doing other normal day-to-day functions as well. Just being that I live alone and I am an adult, I guess. And I should probably get into some level of stretching too, considering my existence is largely sedentary and in a sitting position. So it's just a matter of trying to take being alive more seriously. Which, yeah, I'm 45, and I'm sure a number of people are like, what is wrong with this guy? But actually, it's probably more fair that you're all like, wow, really? He's finally going to do something? Yeah, I don't want anybody to get too excited, right? I've been on a stationary bike twice in the same week, which I don't know has ever actually happened, if I'm being completely honest. So it is something I'm trying to just get into. And yeah, I'm not gonna push myself. I'm not working up a sweat. I'm just trying to get some movement in. Maybe they'll escalate as time goes on, but I'm not that committed yet. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so I'm going to try to focus on the reading and focus more on material, which is really to help me probably longer term. I think at some point, if I do get enough material to put together some sort of book, some sort of real essays or something that I could submit places and try to turn this into something for real. It's good to have it all in kind of one location, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I think that's enough for today. But I appreciate everybody who does listen, who does take the time to read, who may bother to take the time to comment or send me direct feedback. I mean, for now, for those of you that know me, that's fine. If this ever becomes something bigger, I probably won't want that so much. I'll want that more focused. But for now, I think it's good. And if it spawns conversations in your own life, great. Give you something to think about, outstanding. And if you think I'm completely out of my mind, yeah, all right, that's fine. I'm sure I know people that already think that, so as well keep that spirit alive. Anyway, thanks for listening and have a great whatever.